What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to bring you my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 14 review and discussion. Okay, guys, before we get to it, though, I want to give a big shout out to Ch.14 for the awesome color scans in the intro, as well as the scans that I'll be sharing throughout this review. I wanted to get this review and discussion out last week, but a lot of things kept me from doing that. So yeah, here it is. So let's get to it. I wrote out, like always, things that I noticed, things that I want to discuss. So there are 9 specific things that I noticed in this chapter, and we're going to discuss them. And I've got some of my volumes to share as well along to further illustrate those. So first things first, Saito's secretive about his intentions, because remember, he tells Kenshin, what are you waiting for, and he's like, follow me in the last chapter, right? And obviously Sano asked him about his arm, if it's okay, and obviously there's something not right about him. So they reach Katsuhi and they give their respects and everything, but there's another reason they brought him there. There's a gathering of warriors. So Saito explains that he's done this for Kenshin, but he doesn't really do anything until he gets there, right? After they give the respects, he explains it. But then he's like, but before that, and suddenly these chains come flying in, this ball comes flying, and then you see Henya flying in the air, and then it's really great to see Kenshin, he's like, Sano, and he's like, I'm on it, and they're all coordinated, they're doing, defending against them, so it was really great to see these coordinated attacks between the two groups. Obviously, Kenshin and Sano, they fought together before, and obviously the Jupongatana as well. So it was great to see that intro of the lower members of the Jupongatana, obviously Cho, Kamatari, and Henya. But yeah, really good stuff. The gathering of warriors for Kenshin reminds me so much of Shishio and the Jupongatana, and ironically, the Jupongatana actually is part of their group now. But it reminds me so much of it because remember how Shishio's, he had burns on his body and he couldn't withstand fighting for longer than 15 minutes. That was his weakness, right? Duration and also stamina, right? This is his weakness. This was Shishio's weakness, the stamina. That's why he died in the end, because he no longer could withstand the pain. The flames just shot up and he burned alive. But anyways, it reminds me so much of it because what is the whole focus of this arc, not only with finding, Kaoru's father, but for Kenshin as well. And it's, and Yayiko pointed this out, that he's weakened, his state, his body, he's in a weakened state where if he fights a death match, it could end up badly for him, right? Even Megumi mentioned this, he can't keep fighting at full strength forever, and he may lose the ability to use the Hiten Mitsurugi style. But it reminds me so much of it because Shishio also has a lack of stamina, and so does Kenshin, so they need these groups to help them. So this whole gathering reminds me of that, and it's, like I said, it's ironic that the Jupongatana are actually part of this group. So very interesting stuff. So Shishio and Kenshin are related here because, they lack stamina and they cannot fight for a very long period of time. And obviously, as Byakuya stated in the previous chapter, that he is going to need more than just a Batosai to fight the Kenkaku Heki, and that's obvious. So Saito did this for Kenshin. But does that also mean that Saito is kind of worried? There's an uneasiness about him, right? And that leads to the next thing. Saito's savagery, in this chapter, in the last one, right? He called Kenshin weak. You've grown weaker in 5 years. Becoming a husband has made you weak. It's funny because Saito is a husband as well. But then he goes on to say that the Jupongatana, Cho, Kamatari, and Henya are just opening act. they're meant to test Kenshin and Sano if they're ready for this battle against Kinkaku Heki. He got to make sure that they know what they're up against, because he's faced them off personally. But when you think about it, he even said to Sano, "You're right along with them. You're weak too." It's funny, right? But in reality, Saito is the one that's truly weakened here, because he's the one that suffered defeat against Byakuya. Now, obviously, Byakuya snapped his sword, but it's not that. He went further than that, right? Saito refused to give up in the fight, and he used the Gatotsu with a broken sword, and you see it right here from Volume 2, by the way. This chapter, chapter 6, where he fights, it's called Gatotsu. But anyways, you can see him right here. Saito refuses to back down against Byakuya, but Byakuya states that I'm going to snap your arm, and he not only snaps it, look at this, he rips his bone. You can see it right there. You can see how the bone actually snaps and rips apart. So he's definitely weakened, injured, to the point where, like I said, his swordsman's spirit might actually be shaken, broken. But it's interesting. It's kind of ironic that Saito's the one saying everyone's weak when he's the one that looks weak and injured. So I noticed that, and I wanted to point it out. So very good stuff, though. Next thing, reunions. In this chapter, they're all about reunions. You got Sano and Anji. That was great to see. It's really funny how Sano's like, "Man, you look the same as you always did," even though I didn't know, prisoners even got to eat very well in prison. So it was great to see that, as well as Sojiro and Kenshin. Sojiro explains how he went around the country like Kenshin did, and he was looking for that answer that Kenshin always mentioned. He's got to find the answer to life on his own, not just through a battle like Shishio, his philosophy. So it's interesting to see. And then it's interesting also how he mentions that I thought that if I'm at your side, that maybe, like in the past when I fought with Shishio, if I fight with you, Mr. Himura, maybe I'll find a clue to that answer. I love how it's mentioned like that, because it really does show the impact of these characters and how they've made on each other. Especially Anji. Anji states that I'm willing to sacrifice myself in this battle. And Sano's like, no, don't go that far. I'm glad I will be right by your side in this battle. We're going to fight together. And it's awesome to see, because it's kind of like a teacher and student relationship, right? Anji taught him the Futai no Kiwami, but Sano taught him kind of a life lesson. You can't always be angry. You have to learn to forgive. And obviously, Anji is still regretting what he did, and he's even put himself in jail for a very long time, but he's even saying he might die in this battle, and he's willing to die. But Sano's like, no, you don't have to do that, because I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's great to see that. I loved it. Not only the reunions there, but it's great to see how certain characters who have fought one another have now become comrades. That is awesome too. I love how Watsuki and Kaoru Kurosaki are really pushing this arc to show the emotion, to show the connection from the past to the current part in Hokkaido. Really good stuff. And also, we know that Anji was in Hokkaido to begin with, and we know Sojiro went off around in Hokkaido, so it's really great to see them now reunited. That's just something I noticed. Shishio's influence. Okay, I've noticed this throughout the arc. Shishio has a big influence, obviously, on Ashitaro, and obviously right here, you can see him right here. I'm going to mention him a lot because in Ashitaro's ex-con, we learned that he actually ate Shishio's food. And what did he say to Shishio? He says, "I don't care whose food it is. I have to live. I have to eat to live. If I don't, I'll die." So, in an essence, he stated the same words that Shishio gave to Sojiro. If you're strong, you live. If you're weak, you die. right? This philosophy of, Darwinism, the whole thing, the top of the food chain. If you're strong, you live. If you're weak, you die. And this is also reoccurs later on. He says, if you don't become strong, Ashitaro, you're going to be a wretched brat for the rest of your life. And this also triggers his, killer instinct to release the Mugenjin. Now, in the last chapter, we know that Kenshin said never, ever draw the Mugenjin ever again. But in this chapter, we hear the words of Shishio. We know it's Shishio talking in Ashitaro's mind. And he's like, I like that. It's easy to remember. So that's how I'm going to start, living through this. So he's you can see the the whole spirit of Shishio through Ashitaro, but it kind of is concerning a little bit because he promised Kenshin that he wouldn't do it, but is he going to? So we're going to get to that in the discussion questions in a little bit. But yeah, and we obviously have seen it throughout several times that he's been tempted to release the Mugenjin, and obviously he does release it against Kenshin in the first chapter. So yeah, that was interesting. Okay, the next thing, Aran and Asahi do not want any part of this battle. Okay, I want to point out that Aran is not a fighter. He's not a fighter. He's an intellectual. He's very smart. He knows Hokkaido well. He's a great asset to the team, but he's not a fighter, right? He's just learning swordsmanship now. And like I said, Ashitaro is very protective of Aran, but he has no willingness to fight in this battle. And at the very end, you see him sitting next to the, standing next to the whole group, and you see him, and he's just like, what the hell am I doing here? What is this? I don't want to fight. And he even says ordinary person. His credentials are ordinary person. It's really funny. It's like, what the hell am I doing here? How did I get myself into this? Why did I ever, cross paths with Ashitaro? Anyways, really good stuff. But also Asahi. Asahi hates violence. She's very skilled. She learned how to be a mercenary from those guys from the Yaminobu, but she's a girl, right? She's just a young girl. She doesn't want to fight. She wants to shine in this new era. So in this battle, she doesn't want to fight. They don't want to fight, and you can clearly see it throughout the chapter. They're talking about, I didn't kill anyone. If I screw up in this battle, it's certain death. Asahi is like thinking that, and you can see Aran. He's also visibly frustrated. He's like, I'm a stowaway. That doesn't mean I'm going to hell, right? And you can see Nagakura is explaining, we should all be, happy and be friends now, even though we killed in the past. And he's like, I didn't kill anybody. I ain't going to hell. So it was really great to see, but it also shows the difference between the kids, right? Aran, Asahi. They don't want any part of this, but Ashitaro, he's more determined than ever, and it's because of Shishio's influence and what happened to him in the past. So I noticed that. Okay, now I mentioned this earlier, this uneasiness feeling with the Saito. This uneasiness seems to be around Saito, and when he explains Hiketsuhi's meaning, green blood, sacrifice of men, and how these honorable, soldiers gave their lives, it gives this uneasiness feeling of maybe that Saito could be joining them soon. We're going to get to that in the discussion questions as well, but I noticed that. The last thing, this is the first time ever since the revolution that Shinpachi Nagakura Shinpachi, by the way, he is the kendo master. I explained this back in chapter 11, so it wasn't a huge surprise, but Nagakura, Kenshin Himura, and Saito Hajime, they are reunited for the first time since the revolution in this chapter, so that was great to see. So those are the things I noticed in this chapter, guys. So on to the discussion questions. The first one, how much have the members of the Juppon Gatana improved since their last battles with Kenshin and everyone in Kyoto? So obviously we've seen Cho the Sword Hunter, Kamatari, Henya. They came in, pretty epic entrance. They fought with Kenshin and Sano a little bit there. So we've seen, you know, they have improved a little. I think they have improved over the years a little. In Chapter 11, we saw Sojiro fight, so we know he's improved as well, but how much? We haven't seen his Shikuchi, or, you know, his... Shutensetsu, I think it is. That's his technique. But anyways, we didn't see either of those, so we don't know, right? And obviously, Nagakura Shinpachi, he has some tricks up his sleeve as well. So obviously, Watsuki is waiting for the battle with Kinkaku Heki to reveal those, but how much stronger are they? I think they've gotten stronger over the years, but I don't know how much. Let's hope that they've gotten much stronger, especially with what we've seen with Kinkaku Heki and, you know, how strong they are. So, anyways, next question. Nagakura Shinpachi reveals that he is older than Saito, but how much older is he? So, remember how, you know, before Nagakura reveals himself, he says, Saito's like, did you have any trouble getting here? And Nagakura's like, are you saying that because I'm older than you? You know, because we were the same rank in Kyoto, but now you're the commander in Hokkaido. So, very interesting stuff. So I did some research on this, okay? So, apparently, they both die in 1915. So in 1915, Nagakura Shinpachi and Hajime Saito, they both die. So Nagakura Shinpachi lives to be 75 years old, I believe. And I believe Saito's in the 70s as well. But I looked it up, and Nagakura Shinpachi is 5 years older than Hajime Saito. He's 5 years older. He's 5 years older. So he's kind of like his senior, his mentor, kind of, in a way. And you definitely can see that, you know, his happy-go-lucky nature. He's very goofy, but he likes to be, you know, positive. He's a positive person. We see that throughout this chapter. But he makes Kenshin nervous and, you know, visibly frustrated, which is also interesting. But yeah, he's 5 years older. Like I said, I did some research on this. But yeah, here's some pictures of the actual Nagakura Shinpachi and the actual Hajime Saito, or Goro Fujita, as well as what's his name, Sugimura Yoshie. Those are their new names. So, but anyways, here's a look at what they actually look like in history. So. Alright guys, so they look much, much older there. But you can definitely see Nagakura Shinpachi in the chapter. He does look a little older, especially in the hair region. And I love how Chris Ch.14 did it. He has him having kind of grayish white hair, looking like an older man. So Nagakura is definitely older. But yeah, I want to point that out. Okay, Shinpachi, question number 3. Shinpachi uses the word fate to describe their reunion. And he also states that something about the Ikadaya incident. He says the Ikadaya incident, their reunion, is based off the fact that they all were together during this incident, and obviously he's misremembering. Obviously that is a real memory of his, but it's not the Ikadaya incident because Kenshin was not there, and that's something that upset him. He wasn't able to help out Katsura. I remember that in the original. And Saito wasn't either, but after the Ikadaya incident, I remember that Kenshin spots Saito. They actually see each other, you know, in the crowd while they're walking. So that was a stare down between the two before they actually fought. But interesting thing, he does say fate. Is it fate that they are reunited like this? Is it possible? Is there some truth to this? Now I want to go into this because there are many subtle hints that Watsuki has given throughout this arc that would suggest it is fate. It is been, you know, in the cards for them to all meet at Hiketsuhi of all places. You know, the resting place of Hijikata Toshizo. the vice commander of the Shinsengumi, as well as their other comrades of the shogunate forces. Now, before I go further into that, let's look at the Shinsengumi, okay? Here is the group of them, and this is in Volume 5 of the Kanzenban edition. You can see Watsuki's color scans. So you can see right here, this back here is Nagakura Shinpachi, and this over here is Hijikata, and in the middle is the Commander Isami, and then behind Nagakura Shinpachi is Saito. So you can see these are the members, and of course this is Okita right here, and Harada right here, who actually is one of Sano's characters, is based off. Sano's character is based off Harada Sonosuke. You can actually see some of his face in him. But anyways, that's the Shinsengumi, and going back to the whole thing with is it fate, the reason why they have been led to this position and they are reunited. Well, look at the final chapter of Ashitaro the Ex-Con, the prologue of the Hokkaido arc. Okay, look how it says, they're all set for Hokkaido. Look at Saito here, okay? You see him smoking a cigarette. What is behind him? What is behind him? What is behind him? Heketsuhi. Yes, guys, that is Heketsuhi right there. That is some foreshadowing of what's to come. Not only is it foreshadowing, but now that we know it's the resting place of the Shinsengumi, that would make sense why Kenshin was led to the photo studio of Tamoto, and he was able to see this picture of Hijikata and of the shogunate forces, which, by the way, rest at Heketsuhi, where they're all meeting now. So remember, Hijikata was there, and this is where he's able to remember the past, and this is foreshadowing again of the reuniting of the Shinsengumi members of Nagakura, Saito, and Kenshin. They're all reunited. So it's definitely been stated, the subtlety is there. So I would say yes, it is fate that they all met again. So, and it's clearly shown throughout the the chapters, little by little, that they have been on this path to meet once again. Their swords and their different paths, right? Kenshin was a killer, assassin. He became, a wanderer, right? Who helps people. Saito was the police force, and now he's, police force for the Bakufu, and then he became a police officer. And then again, Nagakura was for the police force for the Bakufu, the Shinsengumi, right? And then he becomes a kendo master at a prison, teaching prisoners, self-defense probably. So you can definitely see their influence and how they all met up together. Okay, the next question. It seems that Shishio's words have been burned into Ashitaro, literally burned. And why I say burned is because we see the flames of Shishio rising more and more as he gets angry, right? And that's why Kenshin said you're never, ever supposed to draw the Mugenjin ever again. But does that mean that Shishio, is in his head? Now that he's in his head, and he's driving him, that whole thing with if you're strong, you live. If you're weak, you die. That whole philosophy, Shishio, the top of the food chain, this whole philosophy that he lives by now, is this going to make him go back on his word and draw the Mugenjin against the Kinkaku Heki? 1, I think it might happen. He might draw the Mugenjin. 2, it'll be against the Kinkaku Heki. I don't think he'll draw it on Kenshin or against any of the other members on their team. I think it might happen. But I also think that he might try to do it like before, but he'll be reminded of what Kenshin said, and he'll unsheath it. So like he'll start it, you'll see the fire, and maybe he'll unsheath it and be like, but actually Kenshin-san is right. You know, Uncle is right. He calls him the old man. The old man is right. You know, I can't do this. I have to protect them. I think he'll protect Aran and Asahi with his life. That's what I think. He'll be like the bigger brother to them. And since he's the strongest, I really think that. Even though Asahi has shown some serious, you know, skill, and she claims that she's stronger, in the mind, not so much. She has a weak will compared to, you know, Ashitaro. So, but anyways, it's very interesting to think about. The last question. During Saito's speech, he reveals the meaning, the legend behind Hiketsuhi, that it's about sacrifice, and the green blood, the blood of the men who have been sacrificed will turn green in 3 years if they die an honorable death. This gives that uneasiness feeling. It's heartfelt, but it gives that uneasiness feeling around Saito. Is it possible that he's kind of seeing himself? Is this going to be his last battle? Is it going to be? I wonder, because his comrades have all died. You know, Hijikata died, and, you know, he's doing this for them, you know, in honor of them. And the whole thing with him being weakened, broken spirit, these things do concern me. It's possible that this will be his last battle. But if it is going to be his last battle, I do feel that he's going to go out with a bang. He's going to show some serious, you know, spirit. He's going to show that swordsman spirit again. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my review and discussion. I know that's a lot, but I had a lot to say. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will try to get Chapter 15 in a week or two. I'm not sure if it'll be next week, but it'll be soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and definitely check out my website. It's in the description again, and I also left the link to my, you know, my Google Drive, so you can download the chapter as well. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.